Alrighty guys, Isaac here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Legends ToP guide video for Season 17. As you can tell from the thumbnail, I didn't do too hot last season, but I have to be completely transparent with you guys, right? I used the event exclusive team. I wanted to make it work, and although it didn't necessarily work out for me this time around, doesn't mean I'm not going to revisit them in the future. But that being said, that's the past season, right? This is the new season, so let's go ahead and talk about my top 5 teams for this season. Alright, so the first team that I want to talk about, and actually usually I don't do these in any order, like these aren't like a top 5 like from best to like worst or anything like that, but I do have to say this team is probably going to be the best one for the season. As always, I have 2 formations up here, how I would set up my team and how the rank 2 player McQueen would set up his, right? So we got GT. I think this is going to be one of the most valuable teams for just points, right? Overall, if you're looking to rank up very, very high, this team can definitely get you there. As you can see, I have it filtered by Z tier, and they're pretty much all in Z tier right here, right? We have all these guys, and then even when you look into S tier, you have some of these guys like you can include Super Baby too, and I actually probably would do that over this guy, right? That's just my own personal opinion, just so I can go ahead and get the hills, but you don't have to, right? You don't have to do that setup, but it is good that there are filler units in there. But if you're strictly looking at points, you might want to include this baby Vegeta in there instead. But let's go ahead and get into the actual team itself. You have Ultra Omega right here, which is just extremely tanky, right? And he's free to play. You can get him to 14 stars for free. Or actually, I think his event is now gone. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, but if you missed out on him, you are unfortunately going to have to wait a while. But he was free for a while there. Well, to grind him up at the very least, right? And, you know, he is extremely good. His Ultra ability is directly focusing on GT allies. He's very tanky overall, and, you know, I do believe he actually heals himself once he gets down below 50% HP, you are going to be able to heal yourself, which is very good overall as well. You also have Ice and Nova Shenron, who I don't have Nova Shenron, but I do have Ice included right here. They both have damage mitigation. They both use their green card basically. Whenever you see this in their kit, activate special action, nullifies attack. Once they're going to be able to nullify that, right? And then as well as Oob and the Super Saiyan 3 Kid Goku. These 2 units were actually both on the most recent 1800 Z power banners. So you actually might have them at a high amount of stars, right? My Kid Goku was only at 2 stars or 3 stars for a while there, and then I was able to pull him once off of the 1800 banner, and I was able to get him all the way up to 6 stars. So I actually might just use this team for the walkthrough video when I go through the entire thing. This actually might be the play right here, right, for me. And, you know, that's just if you got lucky on there, right? If you can build them up, if you have a single copy of them and you're just lucky enough to build them up through natural Z power, they're 100% both good. You can see Oob actually provides support. He does it in this little T area right there. That's why you can see when I'm hovering over him like that, it shows who he's buffing right there. So make sure you guys are checking their kits so you can see what they're buffing. Like this unit right here, he's only buffing himself, right? And then you also have this Kid Goku who generates blue cards. On the second turn, or at the start of the first turn, he activates his green card, gets 50% to special move gauge. That's incredibly important. And then, of course, I also have to mention this guy. We talked about him in the last guide video, breaking down his kit, but this is a free-to-play Zenkai. He's not a free-to-play unit necessarily, but he is a free-to-play Zenkai. He is pretty old, so I expect a lot of you guys to have him, and he is definitely viable in ToP. So the next thing I want to talk about is Sagas from the movie. So Broly and Cheelai did get their free Zenkai Awakening, and I actually think this is a good opportunity to go ahead and talk about the quote-unquote new characters right here, right? This is not necessarily a new character, but he is brand new to the Zenkai system at the very least. So this is what his kit looks like after the Zenkai. It was actually pretty good even before it, right? You get 50% to damage inflicted for 1 turn, 20% to damage inflicted on the 2nd turn, as well as 50 to key recovery. And then on the 3rd turn, this is where he actually becomes extremely valuable. He restores health by 10%, and he gets a 20% to damage inflicted. And then on the 2nd turn, I think this is also something that's very overlooked. He activates his green card, he gets 50% to his own strike damage, and he inflicts the enemy that he hits his green card with an attribute downgrade of minus 40 key to key recovery. So he's going to make them attack at a lower rate, right? They're going to take a little bit longer to attack you. And then he's also going to cancel their attribute upgrades and buff effects. You're going to cripple one of your enemy's units at the very least, unless they have immunities. But either way, I think this is still very good. The only thing that's really weak to me about this unit is his Z ability, because it's only a single buff to strike attack, right? But we can go ahead and move on to the next unit character, which is this Goku. I actually think he's terrible He's terrible in PvP, but in ToP, he has an amazing ability right here, right? I actually would, on paper, it looks amazing. I would actually have to wait and see how it actually does in combat throughout the duration of ToP. But you get, so according to Battle Turn, at the second turn, you restore your health by 1%, 5% to damage inflicted. Third turn, restores health by 1%, 5% to damage inflicted. Fourth turn, restores health by 3% and 10% to damage inflicted. Right, so you're getting a 5% over across all the turns, but you are also able to get a good amount of damage reduction on that very first turn with a 30%, as well as some damage inflicted. And you also are a support unit at the same time. That's really, really good in my own opinion. After receiving a strike or blast arts, multi-target, you get 5% to damage inflicted by allies in range to the left and to the right of him. You also get 10% to Q recovery of allies in range for 2 turns, right, in those 2 blocks, as well as 10% to your own damage. So you're doing a lot of stuff right here. For a free-to-play unit, I think this is very solid for ToP, especially considering the fact that you can get him at 14 stars. For this setup right here, you can see mine. I have a lot of greens piled up, and we'll go into that later when we talk about the actual map, but you do want a lot of greens for this map. For this map, it's actually pretty difficult overall, but you can see right here on the right-hand side, this guy is actually using, he's at rank 267, so a little bit lower than you typically would like movies to be, right? And that's because a lot of the movie units did get moved down to S tier, right? A lot of the good ones at that, right? You have DBS Frieza right here. You have Revival Gohan right here. You have the Princess Trunks, the Revenge of Cooler Goku. You have the Red Bojack, right? And I still firmly believe that both the Bojacks are extremely viable. It just sucks that a lot of these units did get moved over to S tier, so you're not going to be getting as much points as you're typically used to getting with this team, right? But overall, there is a lot of options right here. I have Birdku as my main slot right here. I probably would not use this team without getting more stars on this Birdku, but he does have an interesting effect right here where every time he gets hit, he restores health of allies in range by 3%. That activates twice, so 6% heal to those in range for him, right? And when I click on him, you can see that range right here. It would be that purple Bojack and then my 2 greens down below, so that's pretty good as well. And then when you can see right here, looking at his buffs to the left and to the right, make sure you guys are checking that once again. But ultimately, I still think there are good filler units on here. Even if you do have to dip into S tier, you will still find some success with this team overall. Alright, for the next thing that I'm going to talk about is androids. So first off, I know I always talk about Red 18 and Red 16, but I'm seeing a lot of love get shown for Blue 21 as of lately, and rightfully so. Blue 21 is an absolute gem, and I'm actually sorry for those who didn't get the chance to grind her, right, when she initially released. Hopefully, I don't know if she's back on right now, but hopefully, if she's not back on right now, hopefully she does come back soon in terms of an event, so you guys can go ahead and farm her out, especially for all those people raring to use androids. This ability in particular is what really sells her kit for me, is at the start of turn, allies in range can get 15% to special move gauge charge rate for allied androids, right? That is especially good, right, because as you guys do know, they actually increased the rates of your blue cards. Like, they gave a buff to it overall for every single unit, basically for the entire game mode, right? So you're going to see blue cards come out of your units very, very often. You also get 30% to Q recovery for ally tag regeneration. Some of your androids will fit that for like Cell specifically. And then also, who else? And then obviously Android 21 as well. Then you also get 20% to damage inflicted by allied tag girls for 1 turn, right? Once again, Android 21 fits that. So does Android 18, as well as being an android. And then you also restore the HP of transforming warriors. That could be very good if you pair her alongside other Android 21 units overall, right? Then, of course, now that we mentioned her, we have the Red 16, Red 18. They always go pair to pair like this. For me, at the very least, right? Or like this. Oh, oops, my bad. So I usually have it like where 16's right here, and then I have the Red 18 right here, because this 16 will always cover change for that 18, right? So if I hover over 16, it's only going to be on her, so I can ensure that he is protecting her specifically, and in turn, Red 18 almost does the same effect. She's going to be constantly healing that 16, right? Because that is the healer for the androids team, right? And you can swap off this block with whoever needs healing, right? Like, if Cell takes a lot of damage, then I'll keep him right here. But if 18 is starting to leak a little bit, I'll just swap her right there. It works extremely well, and it's very, very safe. Zenkai 17 is obviously amazing. And, you know, both of the ToP droids perform well. As you can see in the image right here that I have on the right-hand side, this guy actually has both of the ToP droids as his bench, while I only have the ToP 17 because, once again, I did opt for a lot of green units, right? Green units is definitely one of your focuses. Alright, so next we have Regeneration. So Regeneration is one of the safest teams you can use. I actually have a full walkthrough of me using Regeneration throughout an entire season and not breaking a sweat at all. I think it's one of the safest teams, but you definitely lose points for it, right? I think that's the only thing with Regeneration is that you are not going to get into the very, very top ranks, like the top 100 ranks, but if that's not your goal at all, it's just that top 25% to secure your 1000 CC. Regeneration is 100% way to go. I would probably recommend this team to every player, right, if they're only aiming for the top, or just to get that 1000 CC. There's so many filler units, there's so many Zenkais, and there's so many healers. But once again, for the season, I do recommend bringing a lot of greens. You actually have a green Zenkai buffer here with that Fat Boo. You can bring in the free-to-play Kid Boo, who actually provides an enormous amount of debuffs for the enemy team, as well as providing some sort of support right here as well, where he's able to go ahead. He also restores his own health, which is very, very helpful. So you could put him right here, and then just do this formation. You have Super Baby 2. You can do a whole lot of stuff right here, right? There's like so many units that you can use. Piccolo, I think one of the units that you kind of do need is the healers, and then this Piccolo, right? You don't necessarily need him, but he is so damn helpful just because the amount of damage that he can eat and the damage that he can dish out is so damn worth it. And then this Buhan. I think this Buhan is very, very useful because he does have the bubble shield. If this guy, all he needs is a Zenkai. All he needs is a Zenkai, and he would be like a must bring almost, right? But as of right now, he's still in a really, really great spot. This free-to-play Janemba, right? Also another amazing unit. It has damage mitigation and has blue card generation. So if you have any questions about Regeneration, there's like go ahead and drop them down in the comments down below. There's so many units that you can use if you need like some filler units. But for the most part, this is kind of like what you want to stick with. You want to use your healers, your green units, and so and so. For the next team that I'm going to talk about is Minions. Once again, Minions is a very viable team, but I do recommend bringing both of your greens. So you want to bring in your Cybermen, and you also want to bring in the Ramon, right? I think those are very important. As you can see right here on the right hand side, you're also not just limited to minions. You can also use Frieza Force, as this guy is using right here, because he probably wanted to use the new Broly and Cheelai, right? That's very, very valid as well. But once again, I cannot stress that enough, is that you do want the greens. Just don't necessarily overload on your red units, and we'll talk about that right when we get into the board. But the only thing with when it comes to Frieza Force versus Minions itself is that Minions has a full-blown healer with this yellow Cyberman right here, right? At the end of the third turn, all allied tag minions restores health by 4%. That's a board-wide heal. He is probably like one of the best healers in terms of like for his team, right? He does the entire board by 4%. That's better than Vegeta's. Well, not necessarily better than Vegeta's, but the heal itself is, right? I think Vegeta only does 3% for the whole board, but this guy does 4% for the whole board, right? I mean, Vegeta's going to be able to fit on better teams, stuff like that, but this is extremely, extremely valuable. This blue Cyberman, I really do like him a lot because he does generate those blue cards so damn quickly. The only thing with this green Cyberman that you have to be really careful of is that once he gets below 20% HP, you do not want that to happen. He will self-destruct, right? Just like 16, you don't want him to get below that certain amount of health, or else they will self-destruct, right? So you got to be very careful about that. Alright, so finally, let's talk about map awareness. There's not a whole lot to talk about here because it's actually very difficult. As you guys do know, these stages are built on basically popularity. If there's a lot of Androids teams being used one season, the next season you can probably expect to see a lot of Android team enemies, right? And so last season we had a lot of Sun Family users. So this season, there's going to be a lot of Sun Family. Like, look at this first fight right here. It is Sun Family. Look at how annoying this team already is. You have two units that guarantee a blue card, right? Goten and this Goku, right? And then this Gohan right here, he's able to take aggro for the entirety of the first turn. So if you can't kill him and Goten in that first turn, you are going to have to eat this blue card with Goten, forcing you to just go after this guy first. And then not only that, but you also have this revival Gohan, so you have to get through 2 lives with him, and you actually kind of see this trend going on. There's not necessarily a super safe path, but that is why I tell you guys to bring a lot of greens right here, right? Because honestly, you want to like mow down that Gohan, you want to mow down this Kaioken Goku, you want to mow down the Goten, right? Because you do want those green units on the board, but you keep going, there's more teams kind of like with the similar setup, the Goten and the blue Gohan. It's one of the most annoying setups in the game right there. We keep going. A Goten and the Gohan and Kaioken Goku and a healer with Android 18. So those are some of the units that you definitely have to look after. We can keep going right here too. This the next point that I wanted to make is sagas from the movies. So there is a couple of sagas from the movies sprinkled out within here. Bojack you have to be really careful of, because he does get that blue card at the end of turn 2, right? At the very end of turn 2, because his key recovery is so low, he will super attack you, so make sure you guys aggro him pretty early on. But once again, this blue Gohan is kind of cucking you out of that, because he's going to take the full aggro on turn 1. Unless you have a unit that cancels buff effects, right, on that very first turn, that's the only way you can get out of it. As to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure that's the only way to get out of it. And then we keep going right here, more Sun Family, like Sun Family everywhere, dude, literally everywhere, again, with the Revival Gohan this time. And then this is the last one the last point I wanted to make right here. There is this team with Bootanks that you guys should be wary of, right? Remember, Bootanks does super attack you, right? He does indeed super attack you on that very first turn, and he has a high key recovery. So before you even get any attacks off, he might attack you first. That's why Friendship Rank is so important, because you want to be attacking first. You want all your units ideally to be attacking first before your enemy gets a hit. But Friendship Rank does come into consideration. It becomes a factor in that aspect, right? Because the more Friendship Rank you have, the more your stats will go up, specifically for ToP. So that being said, that's my guide right here for ToP Season 17. Timestamp, as always, will be in the description down below. Let me know what teams you guys are using. Let me know how the season is going so far, if you guys have already went through your 6 energy, all that good stuff. And do keep in mind, I will be doing a walkthrough, probably with GT. We'll do a GT walkthrough this season, so I can secure those juicy points, as well as that 1000 CC. And that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later!